and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing an extremely exciting video for me because I am obsessed with books and I don't think this channel has seen enough of it. So I'm gonna be doing all the books that I read in 2022 video. So let's get started. Starting off with the first book that I read this year, I read Tom Robbins' Skinny Legs and All. This book was recommended to me by my uncle. It was a little bit tough to get through, I will admit that. It was just not really my style. Normally I read more like fantasy, pretty much only fantasy. And so this is not fantasy, although there are fantastical features. It's really difficult to explain, but it's basically about this like girl and she's an artist and it's kind of like about her life, but then she kind of gets tangled up with these inanimate objects that become animated, and so they're kind of like got this goal to get to Israel. There's like a lot of religious references that I didn't really understand. It was interesting. It was interesting for sure. I give this one 2 stars. The second book that I read was The Defining Decade, Why Your 20s Matter, and How to Make the Most of Them by Peg J. This book, when I tell you this book is life-changing. This book is life-changing, okay? You have to read it. It's so good. Like, if you are in your 20s and you're lost or you're feeling, like, overwhelmed with life, read it. I normally, like, don't annotate my books, but this one I went through and I, like, highlighted things. I wrote comments. It has 3 main sections, so it talks about work and how to kind of navigate that world, getting started in your career and figuring out what you want to do. Then it starts talking about love and some like conceptions that we have about love and relationships and like how they're not always the most sound. And then it follows with the brain and the body and like how to kind of live the best life that you can. It's so good. I would recommend it to literally anyone, especially people that are around my age, like in their early 20s. If you're struggling with your life, pick up this book. The next book that I don't have it with me because I listened to it on audiobook, which also, if you're unaware, a lot of the public library systems have this amazing thing called OneDrive or Overdrive. You just have to put your library card in and then you like get free audiobooks and ebooks. It's amazing. But anyways, so the book that I read next is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I think I'm saying her name right. I am obsessed with her. Oh my god. Okay, first off, her Six of Crows series is absolutely stunning. I also met her at a book conference one time and she's just the most down-to-earth, so nice person. I'm so sad that I hadn't read Six of Crows at the time. The show is take me out, okay? Because the show is like a mixture of Shadow and Bone and Six of Crows and it's just so perfect. Oh my god. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. This isn't even about Ninth House. Ninth House was really good. I listened to it while I was working at my old internship at the beginning of this year. It's a little bit creepy, especially when you're like alone in a lab and it's dark outside, but so good. It does deal with like difficult topics, so trigger warning. So it's about this girl, Alex. She's going to Yale, starting her freshman year, I believe, except for plot twist, she can see ghosts. And it's not like the little like, oh, you know, I can see ghosts, everything's dandy. It's like ghosts are dangerous and they can harm you and do all these things, and there's like mystery and intrigue and magic. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. So phenomenal. And the new book is coming out in 2023. Also, Happy New Year. Oh my gosh, it's 2023. And so I cannot wait to read this book. I gave that 5 stars. The next book that I read is Mr. Nice Guy by Belinda Williams, and I read this on my phone. On iBooks, you can get some free books, and I was just like wanting some romance novels while I was traveling this summer. This book was so freaking cute. So basically, there's these 2 people, they live together, they're just like friends, you know. Chelsea and Tom, and Chelsea always has these like horrible boyfriends and they're really bad to her, and so she's like kind of complaining to Tom about this, and Tom is like, you know, the nice guy, super sweet, and he's like, okay, look, I can show you a good time and prove to you that nice guys are not just boring, you know, they can also be good. And so they kind of like have this setup, you know, where they're gonna like go on dates to prove that nice guys are like still romantic and like can still give you a good time. And then of course they fall in love and it's amazing. So good. I give this one 4 stars. Then I had the whirlwind that is Sarah J Maas. And how do I say this? I was a little bit underwhelmed by her books. So I started with Throne of Glass, then I read Crown of Midnight and Heir of Fire, and then the library did not have the next book, so then I went a little crazy. I started A Court of Thorns and Roses, and then I read A Court of Mist and Fury, A Court of Wings and Ruin, and then I went back and started reading the 4th book in Throne of Glass, Queen of Shadows, and I got about 100 pages in and then DNF'd it. And here is why. First off, I gave every book 4 stars except for A Court of Thorns and Roses. I give that one 3 stars. That was a pretty horrible book. So, here are my thoughts on Sarah J Maas. First off, Throne of Glass, really good book. I flew through it. It's just like a typical fantasy novel. You know, there's a love triangle. She gets like thrown into living in a castle. There's intrigue and politics and really fun, cute little princes that make you feel things. And it's great. I flew through it. I think I read it in like 1 or 2 nights because I just eat up some fantasy. I love it so much. But in like book 3, I believe, she starts bringing in some more characters like Manon, who is literally the worst character to ever exist. Like, Sarah J Maas has this thing where she really wants you to like unlikable characters, which is so strange because you could just make the characters likable and then we'd all like them. But instead, she likes unlikable characters like Manon. And literally every single Manon point of view, I wanted to put the book down. And that's literally why I stopped reading the 4th book, because I wasn't even that invested. I felt like these books are completely overhyped. There's so many better fantasy novels out there, so many better romance novels out there. And then, you know, Manon's point of view came again after I had just finished her point of view, I feel like, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I just didn't care. With A Court of Thorns and Roses, that was a shocker for me. Because first off, I didn't realize that it was a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and so I was literally eating dinner with my mom, and I'm like telling her like how ridiculous this book is, and I was like going through, and she's like, Jasmine, you know, that kind of sounds like the plot of Beauty and the Beast, and I was like, what? So now she can't even come up with a good plot? Like, she's reusing old plots? That was really my bad because, you know, I didn't know going into it. But also, that book is so strange. She's like falling for this guy, but he's like actually abusive. And then also, you know, Rise, he's problematic in the 1st book. Extremely problematic. I will say, I loved him by the end. All right, I loved him. But, yeah, problematic. Also, it should have been a trilogy. I really just was not about to keep reading. She did it again with, what's her freaking sister's name? I can't even remember. Nesta! Nesta was the worst character, and I'm sorry, you can't change my mind. Like, when I found out that the next book was just, like, mostly about Nesta, I was like, absolutely not will I be reading it. She's a horrible character. She's horribly unlikable. She's a bitch most of the time. Why would I want to keep reading about her? I just don't get it. Like, make your characters likable. I don't know. Moving on to the other books that I read this year, because I read a trilogy that made up for the Sarah J Maas disappointment in every way possible. One of the best trilogies I've ever read. Snow Like Ashes. Snow Like Ashes, which is book 1, and then Ice Like Fire, and then Frost Like Night by Sarah Roche. This series has my whole freaking heart. It's so good. It's like your typical fantasy novel. There's so much good world building. Her world is literally so incredible. So basically, we follow a girl from the Kingdom of Winter, and 16 years ago, so like when she was a baby, it got taken over by Summer. And now there's just 8 Winterian soldiers left who are like free, and their whole goal is to get back the winter like magical item, and then they can restore power to Winter. And one of them, of course, is the little prince, and he is so cute. I'm obsessed with him. I just like love myself a little prince. Sorry, but so Mira is the girl that we're following. She's just like a badass heroine. I love her. And then Mather is the prince, and and there's like so many good characters. There's so many good like character arcs, and literally this trilogy, I flew through it. Every single book I gave a 5-star. So good. I'm just like obsessed, and it's been in my TBR for a really long time, and I just like never read it. And so if you are like in a book slump or something, pick up this book. If you love fantasy, pick up this book. Moving on. Okay, my comfort novel is called A Guy Like Her. It's by Jean Louise by Darth. She is Australian, and it's on Wattpad, and I literally just read this whenever I just, need a little bit of childhood with me, except for it's not a childhood book. It's definitely for young adults and or not children, because there are some heavy romance scenes, if you know what I mean. But so freaking good. It's basically about this girl. She goes to college, and for one of her assignments, she decides like they have to put themselves in another person's shoes, right? And so she decides that guys have it so much better, their lives are so much easier, and so she wants to put herself in a guy's shoes and kind of see what they experience. So for 2 weeks, she dresses up like a guy. She lives, in the guy's dorm, and she has this guy who's also in the class, Taylor, who takes her around, kind of introduces her to the guys. Plot twist, when she was a girl, Lucy, she met this guy, Jake, and they kind of hit it off. But now Jake is her new roommate when she's pretending to be a guy, but also going on dates with him as a girl. It's complicated, it's great, it's amazing, there's plot twists, it's really good. Comfort read for sure. I gave that one 5 stars. I've read it like 4 or 5 times. The next book that I read, it was getting into like October spooky season. I was like, I need something like that for my soul. So I picked up City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab, who is one of my all-time favorite authors ever. She's so amazing. She wrote A Darker Shade of Magic. That trilogy, hands down, one of the best trilogies. It's so freaking good. If you love fantasy, it's like set in like London. If you like London, that's kind of cool. If you like old-timey stuff, magic, transporting yourself between worlds, so freaking good. So I read City of Ghosts, and that book was so freaking cute. It was in the juvenile section, so it was like a little bit childish. I think our main character is like 13 maybe. Her and her family go to Scotland, and her parents are filming a TV show where they talk about ghosts. Plot twist, she can see ghosts, so they don't know that. And they go to all these like haunted places in Scotland, which is where I went this summer with my mom, and we literally went to these same exact places and heard about these same exact ghost stories, and it was literally so freaking cool. I don't know, to see somebody else describe a place that you had just been to in such a whimsical and like beautiful way. I don't know, so good. If you wanted just like an easy spooky little read, definitely recommend that book. I had 2 more books that I read, and neither of them were my favorite, but they were a little bit of a different genre for me, so I was trying it out. First off was Meant to Be by Emily Griffin. I've heard really good things about Emily Griffin's books, and so I really wanted to try her out. I listened to this on audiobook. I did listen to it pretty quickly. Okay, I don't know why. Oh my god, it's so pretty outside. A school bus just passed by. Must be time for the kids to get out of school. It's 5 p.m. Why are the kids getting out of school right now? Ridiculous. Anyways, Meant to Be was about this girl who is in her late 20s. She's like a model. She's had like a rough childhood upbringing. Again, trigger warning, there were some heavy topics. It was really nice to see her, you know, thriving as an adult. And then she, you know, has had like not much luck with love in the past until she meets this guy who happens to be part of the Kingsley family, and they are like super rich, super influential in all the tabloids. So she kind of gets thrust into this world where, you know, the paparazzi are following her around and all these things, but she like kind of really likes this guy, and it's actually really sweet. I think it was cute. It just wasn't really my 100% cup of tea. I give it 3 stars. And finally, the last book I'm going to talk about that I read this year in 2022 is Start Bright by Susannah Nix, and this book is not my favorite. It was another one of those ones that I got on iBooks for free. It was like a little rom-com, and I gave it 2 stars. It was about this girl. She's like a famous movie star, and she kind of meets this talk show host, think like Jimmy Fallon, and then they kind of have this like romance. It was just like, it almost felt forced. Their relationship had kind of no bearing or like build up. They were just like in love really quickly, and then also it just seemed a little bit like naive. I don't know, not really my cup of tea. And then some honorable mentions, books that I am still currently reading that I started last year. First off, I try and read a classical book every year. This year I didn't get to finish it, but I have it now, so I'm probably gonna read it in the upcoming future. Sense and Sensibility, I started it, I probably got like this much through. I was reading it on my phone, on like plane rides and things. It's been good so far. Don't really have any complaints. The other book is The Life of C-3PO or something. That one is honestly so good, except for it's just not really, I don't really read autobiographies, so it's just different for me, but it's still really good. It's like strange to see Anthony Daniels talk about C-3PO and like his time in the movies, because I kind of just like assumed they were all just best friends from the very start, but of course that's not the reality of the situations. It kind of burst my bubble a little bit about this like wonderful cast and time that they were having, but it's still really cool to see his point of view, see where he came from. I only got halfway through with that one. I'm gonna try and finish it. I can't DNF it. It's like, I've got to read it. I have to read it. Another book that I'm reading right now, I started it last night and I'm already like over halfway because it's so freaking good. I stayed up till 4 a.m. Aurora Rising. I'll do another video on Amie, Kaufman, and Kristoff because they are absolutely phenomenal, breathtaking, speechless, brilliant. But anyways, that is my 2022 book reviews that I have read this year. I hope that you enjoyed. Comment down below which books you read in 2022 that were your favorite or least favorite, what you think of the Throne of Glass series, what you think of Snow Like Ashes, and yeah, I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful new year. This is our year. We're gonna do so much better than last year, so let's go.